All right, everybody, welcome back to the workshop. In this video, we're going to be starting our Adirondack chair build. And as you can see here, I've got an Adirondack chair. I built this back in March. It is now August. And I built this with cedar planks that I picked up at Lowe's. It was really cheap, really easy to do it. And historically, I don't like Adirondack chairs. I think they're very uncomfortable. I think the geometry is terrible. At least for me, and it's always a personal thing when it comes to chairs. But back in February, I went into my local Woodcraft and they had this chair. I sat in it and I was like, wow, that's really comfortable. I thought it was the most comfortable Adirondack chair that I had ever tried. And I liked it so much that I was like, I need to make it for myself because you know what? It's really kind of awesome. They sell plans for this, 30 bucks for the plans with MDF templates. I just took the plans, I took the lumber from Lowe's and I just started to hack away at it. Just didn't think about it, didn't shoot any video, just started building. And this is what I came up with, and it's a great chair. Now, this has been out here in the open, in the sun, in the weather for the past 4 months, and it has taken a toll. Like this is, after I milled it all out, it's a 1/2 inch cedar, and it's just not up to the challenge, right? It's just too thin for this kind of work. But you can see here, I drilled in some holes, and originally I'd assembled this with screws. And then I thought, let me play around with these nails that I get from Tremont Nail, these cut nails, and so I just put them in the holes. Now the ones that I use are really too small for the pre-existing holes, so that's why everything's really loose. When you do it right, it's just really tight in there. But so as you can see here, this chair is now wobbly. Like I was sitting in it the other night and it was basically ready to come apart. So now is the time that I have to redo it and do it right. So that's where we are now. We're going to redo this. So by the way, I did have to replace 2 of the seat posts here. You can see that. And everything is coated with, with water locks. So I use water locks to do all the sealing. And the water locks is held up fairly decently. Like you can see here, it's held up well on this arm, but it has faded completely on this arm. So, it's tough. It's tough because we're out in the open, in the harsh sun, hot, rain, all that stuff. But now it's time to build, and I'm going to build it out of white oak from my local sawyer. I've got a total of about 16 board feet of lumber that I picked up at the beginning of April. So it's been sitting here for the last couple months. What's that, 3 months, 4 months? Just kind of sitting here, acclimatizing. It's a good idea to acclimatize your wood as much as you possibly can. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be looking at the grain patterns. Some of it is very clear, like this is pretty clear, but there's a lot of knots, right? There's a lot of knots. I'm never too shy about what you might consider common lumber because I think it can be very interesting. So I kind of revel in it. I kind of enjoy it. Like look at this one. This white oak, there's a little bit of what looks like the sapwood here. That could be very nice looking. And then here, this knot here has this kind of spirals, which I think could be really interesting. Adirondack chair templates. These are the backs. They're not the full length. I did note here 25 1/4 inches on this one, 30 3/4, whatever. We're not going to worry about that. What I like to put on here is identifying it so that I can use it later. 2 out of 10. What did I put here? 326. Then how many quantities you need to cut out of this? So only one of these. Lower rear cross sections, one of those. Rear cross section, one of those. Then there's the arms. Something like the arms is going to need 2 of these. Front legs, 2 of those. Rear leg, 2 of those. So we need to look for the biggest pieces first. Now, when it comes to the legs, the first and most important, I think, is this rear leg here. And we need to have 2 of these rear legs. So we're going to be looking for what should be the straightest grain possible. I think actually the straightest grain is down here. I'm going to run it as close to the end of this board as I possibly can. Trace out the template using black marker. I'm going to push it right to the very raw edge of this board. I'm trusting that the board was cut by the sawyer relatively square. This could be Troublematic if you can come off of it. And I'm just using a marker, and I think marker's a great way to go because you can readily see the black line of the template. Makes it much easier than using a pencil. See, if I take this off here, now you can see that. That's voila. Here you can see where I put this pattern. And if I wanted to do it here again, I could do it right next to it to try to be frugal with my wood. However, the problem is there are these knots, and that could be a little bit, you know, it could be a little bit, what do you call it? It could be a little bit weak. So we're going to skip over this. It's a lot clearer here. So we've also got a little bit of a situation on this particular board where we've got open here, some knotting, there's no knotting here, and then knotting here. So I'm wondering if, can I somehow, yeah, this is what I was thinking. I can like fake this in here, cut all that out, and just get the straight. There'll be a little bit of a knot here. There'll be a little bit of an aberration on this. Let's flip it over the other way. There's no way to really avoid this one. I think the better way is to go here. I think we're going to have less, yeah, less of the knot is going to be in it. Where if I went the other way, the knot's going to be right in the middle of that. So feel the edge so that it's relatively straight. My plan is to eventually joint it so that this will be straight and square at the end of the day. Now, while I am pressing it down, this is still going to be rough cutting. We still have to do all of the surfacing. Like we will still have to mill all of the surfaces before we can actually use them. All right, there we go. That is our first legs. Those are the critical ones. Now we're going to need 2 of these front legs. Then let's look at the arm, or the arms. Now the arms, I have a lot more tolerance for what could be. So we want to try to get maximum efficiency out of our material. So I'm going to pull it as far as I can. Again, I'm going to try to use this edge here as a straight edge. I think that'll be okay. Can we fit another arm this way? Ouch. There is a knot right here which will show up right there. So I don't know if, you know what, let's roll with it. Okay, great. What's next? How about our support? Okay, I could put the support right there. Trying to get maximum efficiency, S1. Can we do 2 support? Oh, we could do 2 supports. S2. Now the question is, how do we work the rest of these parts in here? That could work here. Oh, that could work in here too. Oh man, that's kind of living dangerously. I think I could go this way with it. Let's see. Now the question is like, when do you get too frugal with your cuts? I'm just kind of roughing these out. When we finally get to the more serious part of this, we're going to dimension them a lot more carefully. And I think this is pretty much all that I can get out of this board, because remaining, we've got the back slats, but they're quite longer. These are much longer than what the dimension shows here. We need 2 of these legs, 1 more of these. I think we could actually get the rest of it out of this 7-inch board. I'm thinking about using this end to do the front legs, but the problem is I could line it up like this and get 1 leg out of it, but the other side, I've got this check here. Maybe it's going to be better to work with that 8-foot or 8-inch wide board versus the 7-inch. Let me switch it out. And really, this is why you buy a little bit more wood than you probably need for the project, because you may have to change it up a little bit. If I didn't have that check in the 7, I could probably, well, what if I just use it differently? Let's do that. I kind of want to save the 8-inch board for pieces when we really need the width. And these pieces are not that wide, so we don't really need it. What if we were to take this here? All right, I think I still want to utilize this. I wonder if I have to do that here, front leg 2. Now we need to carry this 25 1/4 inches. They only give us the short piece, so 25 1/4. So we're gonna go 25 1/2. We can cut this to final dimension later. 2 of those, great. This particular one, there's only one piece. This is the center back. So we need 30 3/4, so we're gonna cut 31 inches. So I mark that here. Bring this over here, 30, 31. Can cut this a little bit longer if I need to. Ooh, we are gonna have to get into that last board because we still need this career cross and 2 of these. I need this and 1 more leg. Let's scooch that down pretty tight. Then this one, we need another 30 inches. All right, now it's time to cut. Cut this off here. Got my little Skil trim saw right here, which is a great little saw. 12 volt, really easy to use. Oops. Well, maybe not as much power as I'd like, but how much power's left? A little bit. Just don't push it too hard. We also need to cut out the end of this board. Oh, shoot. All right, that's having a little bit of trouble. We'll continue to cut with this, the DeWalt 936 trim saw. This is my old 18 volt trim saw. Okay, that works a little bit better. With our loose ends cut away, we just have the parts to cut out now. And since I put them really tight, it's not very easy to get in to make these cuts. So I'm thinking we're going to use the Jigsaw. This particular board, it's pretty much split down the center, right? You can see the line here. I was thinking maybe I could run this on the bandsaw, but it's such a long piece that it might be harder to control just because the table is so much shorter. So I think we're just going to have to cut it by hand using a Jigsaw for the rest of these cuts. Now, if you watch my channel, or you've seen the videos on the channel, you know that I'm pretty heavily into Festool. And while I do have the Festool Try-On Jigsaw, we're not going to use that today because we're going to use this Skil 12 volt. And why this? Like, even though I've got a Festool blade on it, one of the things about the Skil that's superior to the Festool, and it's kind of hard to believe that you're going to say this, is that there's such a great sight line, and there's a good lighting here. The Try-On's old enough that it doesn't have lighting. The shroud for the dust collection means that you really can't see very well where the blade is in your cut, which makes it really difficult. So while it's a great Jigsaw that cuts very accurately, it's actually quite difficult to use. What we're going to do is we're just going to cut into here and just start to cut it out. And this one, it works fairly decently. Like, it's not perfect. It's fairly square, but it's not, maybe not perfect, but, you know, see if I can use the dust extraction to help. And now we've got everything cut out. As you can see here, all the parts have been rough cut. They're not perfectly cut, they're pretty rough. So, and they also have not been milled, so we still have to do some milling. In the next video, we're going to do the milling for it to surface all the sides and then start to trim it up really tight. So if you have any questions, please put them in the comments down below. Let me know what you think about this if you're going to try your own project. So thanks for tuning in, and see you next time.